All right, everyone, two different stories we're talking about today, starting with the potential for a full-on remake or remaster of a fan-beloved Sonic game that will be showing up at the upcoming Sony State of Play, which is taking place tomorrow on January 31st from the sound of things, so we got to break that down. Then the other big talking point for today has to do with an interesting patent and job listing that's been spotted recently over at Nintendo that could signal their bigger plans into the transformation into a multimedia entertainment company. And we're going to get on the same page with all of those details. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And with that, we're going to first hop over to My Nintendo News, where you can see the following post, which outlines what's been spotted around Sonic Generations potentially being the next Sonic game set for a big return. Rumors: Sonic Generations tipped to be revealed at the next State of Play. Xbox Era co-founder / podcast co-host Nick Baker has seemingly leaked the entirety of the next Sony State of Play presentation, providing cryptic tweets as to the contents of the show. He did this last year and was bang on the money. What is interesting is that one of the games mentioned is the well-received Sonic Generations, which Nick claims is one of the games of the show. Sonic Generations launched for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 in 2011 and remains a fan favorite, mixing both modern-day Sonic and 2D Sonic. As always, this is just a rumor, and Sega has not mentioned a remake or remaster of Sonic Generations. So Sonic Generations is definitely one of the better picks, in my opinion, of more recent Sonic games. Even though 2011 is not recent anymore, time is definitely flying, and that game has been out a heck of a long time now. But in terms of it not being a true up old school Sega Genesis era Sonic game, and it actually having a modern coat of paint when it comes to the visuals, of course it was a 360 and PS3 game, it had a nice mix of gameplay because it was truly catering to the old 2D Sonic fans while also maintaining some of those fun 3D levels and environments, and it is legitimately an attempt to mesh those two different gameplay styles together, and it's not easily playable anymore. So I guess you can technically, I think with backwards compatibility, still play it on the Xbox Series X if I'm not mistaken, even with some enhancements to it and things. But I would love to have a remastered edition of this particular game. I didn't complete it to 100% back at the time when it released. For whatever reason, I just never got finished with my run through of the game, and I'm really excited for the mix up of the 3D progression levels with the classic 2D ones. Now there is some talk about the shadow of Sonic Generations in the post from Nick, so it's one of those things that potentially they're adding in like new characters, new modes. I do think Sega's really been on a good tear of new content recently, between Sonic Frontiers being their big 3D direction for Sonic now, and of course Sonic Superstars being their more new Super Mario Bros. Style 2D Sonic content to cater to those fans. And now we're going to get a remaster of the one that tried to do both together, and similar to how they did like the additional content of a battle mode in Sonic Superstars and tried to lean into some different ideas. I wonder if they're going to get unique and creative and kind of give fans a reason to go buy this version even if they already own Sonic Generations currently, or maybe it's one extra justification to repurchase the game if it's already in your library. And Shadow as a playable character, or even having some kind of story mode built out, maybe, I think would be a really cool way to do that. So we'll have to wait and see. It won't be too much longer. The Sony State of Play is slated for the 31st, as I mentioned earlier, so I'm excited to get a more detailed look at Sonic Generations, and you should probably expect this to be a more or less a spoiler for the event, because as mentioned, the person was entirely accurate with leaking the State of Play before it happened last time, and with the list of games here, they do seem like they make sense. It's coming from a reliable source, so I'm sure we will revisit this conversation at some point once we get the official reveal trailer for Sonic Generations remastered or remake. Whatever it is, we'll have to wait and see. But let me know in the comments down below how you guys feel about the prospect of a Sonic Generations remaster, and what kind of additional content you hope we see Sega pump into the game if it does indeed get revealed at the Sony State of Play. Now, the other story we're talking about today is one that's picked up a little bit more traction recently, but we have not talked about it on this channel here, and it has to do with the possibility of Nintendo really doubling down on this multimedia strategy that they have. We know the success of things like the Super Mario Bros. Movie becoming the second highest grossing animated film of all time when it comes to revenue, only behind Frozen 2 in the box office. Really impressive stuff there. Obviously, Nintendo is elated with the kind of numbers they drove with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. We we also know that they're expanding into theme parks and big attractions in the real world, with Super Nintendo World already having a spot in Japan and in the US, and we're getting multiple in the US, with Florida being set for the next one, and it's already in California. We got a lot of stuff going on with that. There's, I think, even other locations around the world. And side note, this is not a piece of this story, but recently Mr. Aonuma was spotted at one of the construction sites for Super Nintendo World. So are we getting a Legend of Zelda expansion sometime soon? I will be booking my plane ticket as soon as we get any kind of announcement like that to go check out Super Nintendo World. That's a hands down guaranteed statement from me. But I do want to hop over back to my Nintendo news for this different article, which outlines the possibility of Nintendo maybe dipping their toe into something larger like a streaming service in the future, or at least building out the infrastructure for it. So you can see the following post, which reads, Nintendo job listing and patent explores possibility of multimedia streaming service. In a potential expansion beyond the gaming realm, Nintendo appears to be exploring the development of a multimedia streaming service. Recent findings, including a patent filed earlier this month and a revealing job ad suggesting that the Japanese company is venturing into the world of multimedia content. Nash Weedle brought attention to a recently filed patent focusing on the selection and ordering of streaming content. The patent outlines systems for indicating available content, tracking watch content, and more. While patents alone may not convey much, a job ad for a software engineer with expertise in multimedia technologies from Nintendo of America adds weight to the speculation. The engineer is expected to design and develop software supporting multimedia use cases specifically tailored for massively used gaming consoles. The timing aligns with the upcoming launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, indicating that Nintendo may be preparing to offer more than just gaming on its next system. The mention of a massively used gaming console in the job ad suggests that the potential streaming service could extend to the current Nintendo Switch as well. So this is a hard one to look at and really figure out exactly what direction Nintendo might ultimately go with this. It obviously seems extremely early for Nintendo to try to offer up some kind of streaming service of their own entirely, because they just don't have the content library at this point in time, unless they start licensing out other people's content, and I don't really see them getting into that. So maybe it's not a dedicated video streaming service, but something that they could add in as a Nintendo Switch Online benefit, where in addition to the classic library of Nintendo games that we have between all the retro consoles that are available now, you have an additional app icon, which is the Nintendo Multimedia Collection, whatever that looks like. Obviously, Super Mario Bros. Movie would be there day one and just streamable on your Nintendo Switch or Switch 2, but maybe they start to slowly add in and build out the rest of the content library as time progresses, but it stays as one of those Nintendo Switch Online member benefits, to where if you have the expansion pack or one of the higher tiers, you're also going to have access to any kind of Nintendo related media, and they might even go as far as using it like something of a marketing tool or kind of a hub for game trailers that they throw out there. Obviously, we have YouTube right now with Nintendo of America and all the different regions of the world posting up new gameplay trailers and things, and that gets a ton of traction. But would Nintendo want to bring some of that in-house and also have a hub for their own media being online as part of something like Nintendo Switch Online via a subscription service, and then you have access to their movies, their latest trailers, and maybe even some exclusive content, behind the scenes videos that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. And they might even do like the kind of concerts that they live stream to YouTube and leave those up on their multimedia streaming app. It definitely seems like they're pulling the levers to get something that is akin to a Netflix for Nintendo put together on the console. And why we don't have Netflix is also a great question while we're at it, but I do think that Nintendo will be moving some puzzle pieces around as we talk about the transition to next gen hardware, and maybe even make it backwards compatible, or just compatible rather, with the current generation of Switch family of systems today, because they want something like this to potentially be viewed as another selling point for why you might justify the Nintendo Switch Online subscription. At least that's how I could see them doing it. Would they go standalone and just charge for it as a standalone subscription? It's a possibility, but again, I don't see how they quite justify that until we're years and years in the future and we have a larger collection of Nintendo based content and Nintendo movies and things that might justify a standalone subscription price tag. But for now, I would be willing to bet my money that Nintendo is doing something in the way of a multimedia streaming app as part of NSO, and it's just one of the many perks that they're going to try to continue to stack onto that service to make it a must sign up for most Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 users after they purchase their console. But that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. What do you think about the prospect of Sonic Generations coming back to likely Switch and other platforms? Obviously, it will be on PlayStation because we know to expect it at the State of Play play, but how do you feel about that game potentially returning? And are you excited for the prospect of Nintendo maybe leaning into the multimedia streaming side of the business a little bit further than they have so far? And do you think that aligning it with something like NSO is what makes the most sense for them? Or do you think they might actually be going in a standalone subscription route? Maybe this is years and years off, but they are laying the groundwork for it now in terms of Nintendo potentially creating their own Netflix one day. But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.